Alright, hello, my name is Malachi Sayers, and I am here to show you what I have done for this current sprint in my task. So, yeah. Alright, so for our first task, replacing the player character mesh with a custom player character mesh. So there's a little bit extra steps that went into this. Basically, I replace and rig the mesh in Mixamo, then retarget the movement animations, the climbing animations, basically all the animations. So what is down here? And this is for our main character and enemy character too. But enemy character wasn't documented. So oh well. There was a bug and I ended up fixing the bug. The bug had something to do with the Win Key collection interact. So basically the player wasn't able to interact or was unable to win the game if they had collected the key to win the game. So that was fixed. And then replacing block mesh in the underground labs level. That is my level. So basically, I just removed block mesh, added final assets, added in final textures, just to make the level look more polished. That's just basically it. So I replaced the pedestal block mesh. Let's go back to our main task. So replace the pedestal block mesh, replace the walls with final walls, made some global materials, so be able to put those on the floor and on the ceilings, and then added final assets, which you can see here. For some reason, these pictures don't want to load, but that's fine. I can show you in game. Alright, so added a fall damage sound when you take fall damage. So yeah. Added a fire sound in my levels, so there were fire particles and there was no sound, so I added a sound. I improved fall damage, so essentially added a sound effect, decreased the fall damage height. Um, so yeah, I think that was a subtask. Oh well. Oh no, this is different. Added a sound for this falling platform. My bad. So when a platform falls, it plays a sound, and then this is for the fall damage sound. I created basically created action mappings for those that need action mappings. So any engine key inputs um, were removed and replaced with action mappings. So basically, as a player, I want to hear feedback when I'm climbing, so I may know when I'm climbing. Basically, when you climb a climbable wall, you will hear a sound effect. So yeah, a little bit more feedback. Rebalance wall climbing. What I did was adjust the climbing speed to make it slower so it's less slippery, and then I adjusted the animation speeds to make sure that everything syncs up. Added and remove input actions from the controls menu. In the controls menu, you're able to rebind and bind um, inputs, and I remove grappling. So I removed the grapple and the stun attack and added a kicking. And that is basically it for all of my tasks. And let's hop into the engine and I can show you. Alright, so as you can see here, we do have our custom character, and it has all of its animations. I would surely hope so. But yeah, the ones that you can see there. Same with the enemies. Enemies has its animations all working nice and fine with our new custom character meshes. So yeah. And as you can see here, or here, there is a sound effect. I don't know if you can hear it, but there is a sound effect for when you are climbing. And as I'm gliding, I'm gonna let go and fall damage. And as you can hear, there is a sound for when you take damage. Alright, so I'm gonna hit the pause button, and as you can see, add it kicking. And as you can see, I remove those input actions that I specify in the Jira. My level is, we'll say, mostly, well, everything is not block mesh apart from this.
Enemy spotted.
We have a concrete floor.
Enemy spotted.
And we have some crates. We have a final assets for our pedestals. Those are full shattering for what the player has to do in this level.
Enemy spotted. Enemy
We have a keypad. Just gotta type in the number. There we go. We have a couple things, some barrels. And in here,
Enemy spotted.
there are final assets in here.
Enemy spotted.
And when I collect this, that makes a sound when it drops down. And there is a fire sound, as you can hear. And that goes away when I interact with our hand scanner or scanner. I'm gonna take out this enemy, collect this health pack, and let's get to climbing.
Enemy spotted.
We can put that there and collect this. Can't interact with this door. Put the cores on the pedestal. Let's move along here. Get our code. 4729, don't forget it. Obviously it's there. Would not want to jump down there. Mind the rotating key. There you go. And we should be able to interact with this. And this is our
Enemy spotted.
win condition. So I'm gonna smack him a couple times. I think he's spawning his goons. We can take those out. So I'm gonna go after his goons.
Enemy spotted.
Gonna hit them before they hit me. I have to really go behind them.
Enemy spotted.
There you go, I took them out. And there we go. That concludes my playthrough.
Hello, my name is Christopher Guyton. I was a designer on Team Axis' Project Takedown, and I'm going to be reviewing the final sprint for Team Axis' Project Takedown using the build number 1039791. Let's get into it. Okay, so the first story that I worked on was, as a player, I want the screen to flash when I'm hurt so that I know that I'm taking damage. So let's demonstrate that first story here. If I walk up to this enemy, let's just walk over to him.
Enemy spotted.
And he hits me. Screen flashes red when the player character is hit. This next story that I work on is, it's actually a task. It's implement screen shake. So when the enemy hits, or the player hits enemies, there's a light screen shake. And the next one, if I hit these enemies, there's a slight screen shake. It might be hard to see on video, but there is a slight screen shake that happens when the enemies are hit. So there it is. This next one that I worked on is make the health give the player more health. So I basically just adjusted the health pickup to give the player more health when he picks it up. But there's the health pickup right there. If I walk up to it, press E, and I gained more health than I did last time. But you probably don't know that because you'd have to look at my last video from last month. But believe me, it's a more significant amount of health. This next one is add a checkpoint reach pop-up. So when the player reaches a checkpoint, it tells you that a checkpoint has been reached. And checkpoint is reached, and you can see that you reached a checkpoint. So if the player dies here, they'll respawn right there. This next story that I worked on is give breakable walls and climbable walls their own textures. I'll demonstrate that. I'll demonstrate this one on the breakable wall. Since you already saw the climbable wall in the last video, let's go over to this breakable wall here. If I press 1 to go to instinct mode, I can see that there's breakable wall over here, and that's its texture right there, and that is a different texture than the climbable wall. This next one is rebalance enemies in combat. I basically just added some enemies in some places, removed them from other places, so that was what this was about. This one is remove instinct CSD, which stands for custom shader depth from breakable floor in labs when the floor breaks. Now, if I look here, I can see that the floor down here changes color when I get close to it because it indicates it's a item of interest. And when it breaks there, it's no longer an item of interest. So it doesn't show the custom shader depth anymore. This next one is a bug. Player speed increases when walking around in certain instances. I actually found and fixed this issue, so I'll show you that. So really what this one was the problem was when the player character finished a combo, their walk speed would be equivalent to their run speed for a few seconds, and so I just changed that. It's kind of hard to really see in build, but I can kind of demonstrate it. Like I'm getting out of a combo, and like my walk speed is the same as my regular walk speed now. It's kind of hard to demonstrate unless you see the code, but that was the issue. This next one is add the new Project Takedown logo into the main menu. So essentially for this story, I created a logo in Adobe Illustrator for the main menu, and I just plugged it into the main menu of the game. So here's what it looks like. And here's my logo. It just says Project Takedown. It was sort of inspired by the Metal Gear Solid logo, if you're familiar with that game, but that's what it looks like. This next one is add a custom splash screen that shows our own Team Axis logo. So for this one, I also created a logo in Adobe Illustrator, but I also recorded like a little soundbite in Adobe Audition that was coupled with it, created the video in Adobe Premiere, exported it, and then turned it into the intro of the game. So here's what it looks like. This next one is add some more props to levels. This next one is add the comic book looks and particles folder into the project so that we can use the shaders and pack in there. Add textures and environments to labs. So this is just adding textures onto the props in the labs environment. Okay, so here's the examples of the replaced meshes for the underground labs with the new textures on them. So here's the pedestals that we had. There's also a keypad control panel here that was created for this. This one is changing meshes for some placeholder objects. So I created a few new meshes in Blender myself and replaced some objects with them. Okay, so there's two main meshes that I made to replace some of the generic meshes that we had. The first one is for the health. So you can see the health there. I made just a red plus right here. And here is the second one. This is just a replacement key. So it's a giant skeleton key. Made it comically sized for fun. Just for fun. Thanks for checking out the items that I did for the final sprint for Team Axis' Project Takedown. My name's Christopher Guyton.
Hello, my name is Darren Alcorn, and this is my final sprint review for our Project Takedown game. We are doing this on 1039817. Okay, so the first thing I want to go over is some of the not-so-seen items. So firstly, I replaced a lot of the assets that we have in the textures from block mesh to assets with textures that you'll notice in the game, and I added some lighting to different areas of the map to brighten it because they was dark areas. And another thing that I did was increase the damage multiplier for the enemies with weapons. The enemies with bats do more damage than enemies without them, along with critical hits as well. Right, so one thing I will show is disabled tagging when dodging the enemies. So if you jump over the enemy, you can't attack anymore, so they'll end up not being stuck to the enemy anymore, which was a bug. Another bug was next thing I was added player feedback to the combat. So when you get alerted,
Enemy spotted.
a little icon shows up showing when you are being attacked. I updated that. As you can see, the bat heads do a lot more damage than the fists do in the enemy. So as you see, there's some
Enemy
textured
spotted.
stuff and non-textured stuff that was added. Building was changed. Smart texture stuff was added.
Enemy spotted.
So we block mesh in some other places, but you're still able to. The majority of the map is textured along with the player
Enemy spotted.
and the enemies. So continue moving on. Another thing I added was the sidestep. The enemy sides can use a sidestep animation, and also move around the player when circling inside of combat. Another thing is that I added the alert status to enemies that are stunned. If they haven't been alerted already. So if I'm not currently alerted,
Enemy spotted.
and if I hit them, they are alerted. And if I get multiple enemies
Enemy spotted. Enemy spotted.
to attack,
Enemy spotted.
they all start to circle me. Sometimes using the animation, and as you can see, the fist people do a whole lot less damage. You see there's different items and stuff. A lot of things have been changed from block mesh. There are still a few bugs that need to be fixed, but for the most part, you're able to get to the end of the map and complete the objectives. Keep moving closer to the end of the map. Pretty much skipping the entire part. Some more things were added.
Enemy spotted.
When I scans once and I can't scan it again. Which was part of next task, which is making items scan only once. And that's it for all of the tasks I completed. See, there's more health pickups.
My name is Jory House. I am part of Team Axis, and this is our final review sprint video. So our final change list number for this build is 1039817. Let's go ahead and open that up. So while that's loading, we'll go ahead and start talking about the first two tasks that I'll demonstrate. Easiest to show are these two here: the remove skill tree UI from game and remove weapon wheel from the game. So these are two features that we did not end up incorporating in the final product. So I am going to go ahead and show that off. So basically when you clicked certain keybinds, basically what would happen is the weapon wheel would show up and the skill tree would show up. So I removed those keybinds and the UI elements from the game. So now when I go ahead and click those buttons, it no longer shows up. So that's for both of them. Alright. So those two are done. Next, I'm going to show off the health drops here. So make the health drops viewable during instinct mode. So instinct mode allows the player to look through walls to see enemies and key items, pickups, anything like that. So we wanted to make the health drops, obviously visible during that. So pressing 1 is how we activate instant mode. We can kind of see off to the left here, we see that plus sign. I'm going to go ahead and start moving towards it. So that is in fact our health pickup. And I was able to see it through the wall and find it here. Alright. So now I'm going to continue. Gonna get to a good spot to show off the next task that I want to show off here. Oh, well, that's, I don't know why I did that. Try that again. All right. So let's stop right here. So my next task, before these stairs here, you were able to walk down them, but you weren't able to walk back up them. They were too high for our character's step height. So I did have to go and adjust that. So that is one of my tasks here. So the player should be able to walk back up the stairs exiting the first level. So we are now entering the second level, and these are the stairs. So before we were not able to walk back up these, and now we are. So continuing on. Oh, actually, whoops. I'm gonna go ahead and die right here because I forgot to show that is in fact one of my tasks. So before this sprint was completed, that enemy that glides off of the ledge there was not displaying the proper animation. They weren't holding the glider. So that is another one of my tasks. So the glider enemy at second level is not holding the glider. They were in a T pose instead of doing the gliding animation. So let's go ahead and show that off again. Oh, I forgot I won't do it again because I've already done it. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to restart the whole level. Now we'll come back. Okay, so we're back at the second level. We're going to show off that enemy gliding now. Okay, so they are in fact doing gliding animation. Alright. So we are going to move on. And I'm going to stop right here. So my next task was to replace all of the block mesh fire towers with the new collab fire towers that we received from our artist. So let me just find that story quick. Oh, here we go. So Sam's level is the second level. So replace all placeholder towers with our new fire towers. So these are the new fire towers. I'll go ahead and walk up one and everything. Awesome. So those are in fact all replaced. All the placeholders are gone. And the new fire towers are in. Alright, let's move on. just check my tasks real quick and make sure I didn't miss any. Oh, so there were climbable walls on the placeholder towers that we couldn't climb up before. We did get rid of those with the new like art collab towers. You no longer are able to climb up them because that is just removed from the game. So I am actually not able to show that one off. Then, okay, so moving on. The next task I'm going to show. So the player cannot respawn after walking into the flames in the last level closest to the end of the level. So I'm going to go ahead and show that. And I will simultaneously show it with another task basically at the same time. So let's go ahead and fight. So I'm going to fight these people to show one of my other tasks too. So we will get that going. Okay. Let's keep going. Let's get a little health back. And also take out these guys. Okay. So it's not these flames. But it is in fact these flames here. So normally what the player would do was climb over these. That's how you get by. So the issue was if the player did walk into these, they were not able to respawn. So I did fix that. And now you're able to spawn again. Okay, so the next task I'm going to show is make checkpoints reload enemies when player dies and reloads from the checkpoint. So if they choose not to go back to the main menu and they, want to go back to a checkpoint, I needed to make all the enemies appear. So we can still see over there that they are still down. So I'm gonna go ahead and die. Oh, wait. I think what I need to let happen. I'm gonna let him kill me. Okay, so I'm gonna restart from checkpoint. which is here at that fire pit, and we can see that those two enemies that were down before are back up again. Okay, so now my last two tasks involve the boss fight at the end, so I'm going to go ahead and progress further in this level. Okay, actually, so before I open this door, so my last two tasks involve the boss fight. So the first one, basically, I'll talk about is refined boss fight. So before this sprint, the boss really only had the shield in hand. So the boss for this, basically, there's a mechanic where the player can vault over an enemy. They can jump over him and do like kind of a front flip. And what this does is it confuses the enemy as to where they are, and it allows the player to land a few punches. So I thought I wanted to incorporate that with the boss. So basically, what the boss does is you cannot punch him or attack him from the front. If you're hitting him from the side, the front, either sides, he's going to block it. Now that feedback will show on the shield for the hit effect. It's going to show on the shield instead of like the body of the how it normally does with the enemies when you hit them. So what the player needs to do is they need to vault over and take advantage of those few seconds that he's confused to hit him in the back. So that was one thing. Then the boss at certain health points is going to spawn in reinforcements. So that should happen 2 times. I did it once at 75% health and 35% health. So let's go ahead and we'll just talk about the second one quick too. So then I needed to add the boss to the end level. So the end of all the levels. So I needed to work with the level creator to implement the boss into their level. So let's go ahead and show the boss off. Alright. So as you can see, I can't hit him from the front or the side. what I need to do is vault over. Oh, there we go. And now I can hit him from the back. Oh, and also he does a sidestep when you hit him too many times, so. Okay, so we can see he spawned in some reinforcements, and they do, function just as normal. Boom. Gun. And he is defeated. And we win. So those were all of my tasks. And yeah, thank you for watching. I am Jory House for Team Access, and this has been Project Takedown. Thank you for watching.
Hi, my name is Corey Harris, and I would like to talk about our Project Takedown. Now, I'm part of Team Access, and we were mainly worried about art stuff, I'm not going to lie. I did a lot of stuff with art, but we did have a few bugs that not only fixed, but also switched parts of the map. I'm going to go over everything at first, because I'm going to have to go through a bunch of areas. But for starters, a really big bug that we had was doors don't always show the press button. We had a button we had a thing that popped up that said press E. Whenever you got near it, it didn't trigger. We think this was a problem that was caused with C++ to C#, because we had somebody using C++. And the collision box just didn't seem to work that great. And we kind of fixed it enough to where it works for the player when you first step on it. I also had to create a concept for an enemy building within the map for the second area. I didn't complete this because there were some things that were taken out, but I did complete some things in it. I added assets into the scene to create a scene inside the room. I also created enemies inside of the room to stop the player from getting the objective. The objective inside of this is a health pack. I wanted to make a collectible with a safe, with a code, but we didn't have that collectible, so I wasn't going to worry about it. And I also had to redo the lighting inside of it, which I ended up doing very last, but it kind of has changed. Not too much, but I was testing it out for that area. I also went and did something for the first area for the entire level, which is create a dining hall where there is this little area with a table, some knockdown chairs and everything. I had to widen the room a little bit, but I have assets to make the room look like a dining hall, and then move around enemies to fit around. I had to move around enemies so that way inside the dining hall they didn't overlap with the table and the chairs. Move around any walls and extend the room if needed. I extended the room a little bit, not too much, but I had to make it enough room to where the enemies could move around. And then fix other rooms around the main area to fit in and match the dining hall. I didn't do this too much. I mainly just moved the other rooms around so that way the player could go around them without it seeming too squished. And then lastly, I had to assist any teammates that need help completing. Not only did I have to help with extra stuff that need to be done, extra bugs, anything that they need help with in their map, with like filling a block mesh and everything, I also spent a lot of time helping the art team. The art team has been great the entire month. They just needed a little push here and there with like color palettes and everything. So with this, I've been helping the art team for every day almost, with whatever they need extra, anything that they needed to complete in the deadline we wanted them to complete it. I would explain it to them, but I would have one-on-ones with them for anything I needed help with, like color palettes for sure, any lighting issues that we have, all that. But going into it, our map Project Takedown, we will start at the beginning and we will run through, especially to the doors. So just going through and attack enemies. I'm going to see about bypassing some enemies because I don't have to take all of them out. But you just go through, right through here for a time being. And there are 3 enemies that you would take out. But then this door right here, this door would give a glitch where it would like not pop up. But now it does. So we kind of fixed that. Everything's fine with that now. Same with this one. This one was a little bit tricky because the way it is, but it still works. We got to figure it out. And then, yeah, and this is one of the characters that the art people made that looks pretty nice. And then we have the wall climbing. Ooh. And then obviously if you fall, you die. But yeah. So let me go back through. And right through here is the dining hall. This is where we have enemies around a little table in the middle with some chairs knocked down, but also some still standing up. I had to widen this room a little bit so that way the enemies didn't overlap with the table and the chairs. But going through this room, obviously these are locked. You can go through, go up. I'm going to try ignoring some enemies. And you have this door. You just walk through. So this is one of the rooms that I had to end up widening a little bit so that way it fit. This is one of those doors that also we couldn't really figure out. Like I said, I think it has something to do with C++, but it's not every door. It's every other one, basically. But you go through. Just take everything out. Grab the key. Because it does it with this too. So with the interact system, we think it has something to do with C++. And then go through here to crouch to get back out. And then here. So yeah, that was the little dining area. Had to stretch out some walls and everything. Fix the enemies so they don't overlap with the table and everything. So yeah. And the last area I want to go through is not only this. We have this fire tower that the art team made that I was hoping then with the color palette and everything. But it's really nice and I enjoyed seeing like what they did with it and how they created it. It looks really good and I would not complain anyway. So yeah, I think they did great with it. And it just looks really, really good. Going back down. With this last area. So you have this glider that they also create that also I think it looks really great. But this is the last area that I'm going to show that I end up creating something with. In this area, oh, obviously it's not open, but in this area, I think it's because I didn't defeat the enemies, but we populated this building to where enemies are in it and there is health in there. But in order for this to unlock, you have to defeat all the enemies in the front area. I didn't do that because I was just trying to bypass through, but it is populated and everything with enemies and all that. And going through, we had the fire tower assets that I was working with art team with, not only the skin, the enemy skins, everything. It's been a really long month with it all, but we all figured it out, and I think it turned out pretty great.
Hello, this is Sam Drivo with Team Access. The build number is 1039817. This month's project was a lot about wrapping up and finishing certain elements and getting assets and items pulled in. Some of the assets and some of the tasks presented today was overlapped with some of the other team members. But we'll start off going over all of the items in my Jira, and then I will load up the game and show off some of the levels and some of the items. For one, we have, just work my way down, we have AX424, lighting to better show off the temple's opening room. So fixing the lighting at the opening of the temple in level 2. Level 1 had several lighting items done, but they were done by the people who own the levels, I believe. So these are done, but they were unfortunately not done by me. So the overall task, lighting rework, was more of a general gist of what needed to be done through the levels, relighting certain items, lighting in the temple was redone, which I'll get to eventually. Adding details, the 397, the temple's map needs to be redesigned on the outside and the inside to add a little bit more depth, more than just plain rooms that they were beforehand. Make the temple look a little better on the outside as well as the inside of the temple. Plus, I wanted to allow the player to see where they were going rather than just assuming that the only one path is there. So I allowed them different access, which I'll show off when I get into my level. These 3 tasks were done by me. They are accomplished. This is one task that was a little interesting. The glide kick needs to lock onto enemies and glide kick over to them, and we were going to use the ledge grab mechanics that were already coded in there to simplify making this mechanic function. The only problem is with the 3 levels we have right now, there was no reason to implement this mechanic, being that in the 3 levels we had, we couldn't use this mechanic. So this mechanic was chosen to be released, to not be added to the game. So unfortunately it was just not done, which I believe inside here has the comments, which is not going to be used. So this one is done, but unfortunately it was not being able to be implemented. It was removed in place of 418. The landscaping at the end level clips into the doorway, and the stairs at the beginning cut in with the landscape as well. The opening ramp at the start cut into the scene aggressively so, and was messing up your character's movement. It would cause the character to split in half. It was interesting. But we needed to change that, so I did some landscaping work on it just to get it fitting right and not being so aggressively bad. There's still clipping in one location, but it was a way to close out one side of the map. The first level, you can see off of it, and when pushed together, you could see the other maps. It just seemed like a big gap, so we had a close there. That one, unfortunately, was not placed by me, so I was not able to remove that one in particular. But all the other items were set up, and I made the path around the temple not so easy to find. It's a little tied in, but it does allow access to get around the temple for people who don't like to fight it, mostly for the game, for the designers, the team. A couple of team had a hard time doing the parkour. This just made it easier overall. Plus, if you're having struggles and you keep dying over there, it's just easier to have multiple ways to do everything, to let the player have their own freedom and move around. Trigger boxes were implemented into the level, but I don't think they have it triggered off. I don't know if they're still there. I think we had issues getting them synced up with the item, plus removing excess landscape around the map was another item. There was a lot of landscape that was never visible to the player, but was being rendered, so it was dragging down the back end of the game, making it work harder than it needed to. So rescaping the landscape to removing anything that wasn't visible to the player. All right. And then let's launch the project. All right, from here is the entrance to the level. This is where the hill first cut into us a little bit. We were having trouble getting that to work correctly and still keep the illusion, but we were able to adjust it a little bit to make it work a little better. From here, a lot of the changes were towards the temple, just sort of getting the idea of the temple around a little bit clearer of the image. Definitely not what I would say would be done, but closer. There's some clipping issues and items like that. A lot of these items bring your eye to this area over here instead of over there, with those trees clearly blocking most of the path in the background. So then we come into here. We also establish a checkpoint, and we come into this area over here, which is a pretty dark area. But got the lighting a little more grim, but unfortunately we weren't able to get it much lighter than this without running into a few issues here and there. I wanted to build a pass so you could get across. So if you stand over here on the Bressingar by the thrones, you can see that there are clearly lights over there on top of the walkway, plus some kind of weird items and pillars over here to move across. So this was the redesign for the front of the house area, kind of interesting, but not focusing on it at any point in time, really. More of like just traversing through it. It is the darker area, but without losing some of the umph of the fire. Then led into this. This is something that was added later on towards the end. This was a very straightforward, like one-time jump to get to the door, but I felt like it needed a little more oomph to it, so I kind of made this odd altar area with these tables and candles and everything. Just kind of cool, transporting, just kind of something simpler for the level to get across. So basically this is just a little bit of working on the lightings in a couple of the rooms. A lot of detail went on to adding assets and keeping the temple making a little more sense, not so mundane or boring. And a couple of items to help streaming through the levels and moving the landscape to keep everything working a little smoother. Thank you.
Hello there. My name is Preston Woods, a member of Team Axis. I'm currently using our latest build revision, 103.9817. For my first task, replace block mesh with final assets in the Hanging Fortress level, which is the first level of our game. For the completion, I need to replace the environment, textures, models, and make sure all blueprints are updated with all final assets. As you can see in this video and throughout the rest of the videos, that the first level has been completely replaced with final assets. Inform the player what controls to use for mechanics with in-game tutorials. Add instructions for where to go at the start. Introduce how to attack enemies and how to counter enemies. Here, tells the player to go to the armory. Tells the player how to attack enemies.
Enemy spotted. Enemy spotted. Enemy spotted.
And this is telling you how to counter them. Replace an enemy holding a key for the Grand Hall key. It's supposed to say hall with just a key.
Enemy spotted. Enemy spotted.
Let me get to the Great Hall. I go through here. This is a segue into the other task I have here. Introduce how to crouch using a vent. Lock the player into the kitchen after collecting the key that's in here. Display controls above the vent on how to crouch. And add a vent for the player to crouch through and escape the kitchen. If I go in here, here's the key.
Enemy spotted.
And here's the instructions. And here's the vent to escape. And just to show you, you cannot leave through the door you came in. And that key is required to open this door. And before leaving, the last bit to show is back at the beginning. As a player, I want new mechanics to gradually be introduced to me. Players introduced to countering before reaching the armory. After reaching the armory, a guard protects a button. And here's the thing for countering.
Enemy spotted.
And here are the guards protecting the button. And that's all that I can visually show you. Thank you.